Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison LaGrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. The Trump administration says Ukraine is ready to move forward with a ceasefire process. The remarks come ahead of peace talks between the US and Ukrainian officials in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. Russia, China and Iran kick off joint naval exercises off the Iranian coast. Tehran says the drills in the Chabahar port are aimed at boosting cooperation. Canada's Mark Carney issues a warning to US President Donald Trump after winning the premiership race. He says Canada will not become the 51st US state and that the country will win the trade war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appears in court to testify in a corruption trial amidst protests against him and his government in Tel Aviv. German airport workers stage a walkout demanding better pay. The strike grounds thousands of flights, impacting around 50,000 passengers. Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest from Syria, where fears of a civil war are returning. Just over 3 months since the ouster of President Bashar al-Assad, which brought the 14-year-long civil war to a rest of halt. The latest surge in violence over 3 days has reportedly killed over 1,000 people. These bloody clashes between the new Syrian government forces and Assad's loyalists began last week, when government forces were ambushed during a security operation in the port city of Latakia. After this, the Syrian government launched a counter-offensive against Assad loyalists, bringing havoc and chaos to several towns and cities in the coastal areas. From Latakia, violence quickly spread to the Jable town and Tartus province. In Jable, gunmen were seen attacking a restaurant and smashing car windows. The affiliation of the attackers is yet to be verified. A UK-based war monitor, Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, said that of the over 1,000 people killed, at least 700 were civilians. The war monitor claimed that these civilians were killed by government forces, as they did not distinguish between the combatants and non-combatants. In the latest unrest, this has been the bloodiest outbreak of violence since the fall of the Assad regime. Syria's interim president, Ahmed al-Jolani, has vowed to hunt down those responsible for the violence and has warned Assad loyalists, asking them to give up arms.
By your heinous actions, killing those who protect Syria and work tirelessly to serve it, storming hospitals, and terrorizing the innocent, you have attacked all Syrians. In doing so, you have committed a great and unforgivable sin. The response you received is one you cannot endure. Therefore, surrender your weapons and yourselves before it is too late. Anyone who harms unarmed civilians or punishes one group for the actions of another will be severely held accountable.
Syria's coastal region is the heartland of the Alawite minority and a stronghold of the Assad family. The region has become a major security challenge for interim President Ahmed al-Jolani. At the heart of the ongoing clashes are sectarian attacks against the Alawites. Since Bashar al-Assad's ouster, attacks on the Alawites have been on the rise. Alawite activists, particularly in Latakia and Homs, say their community has been subjected to violence and attacks since Assad's ouster, while the government refuses to provide any services. Now, in last week's ambush, the pro-Assad Alawite gunmen attacked security forces and took control of Qardaha, Bashar al-Assad's hometown. Damascus then sent in reinforcements. The interim government says security forces have restored control of the region. But since then, a counter-offensive against the Alawite community has been raging. The Jolani government says it will continue to pursue leaders of the insurgency. In the capital, Damascus, hundreds protested to condemn the violence in the country's coastal provinces, calling for pan-Syrian unity in the face of sectarian killings. The protesters called for building a new Syria free of violence.
Syrian people are one. No to sectarianism. Stop the sedition. The blood of a Syrian on another Syrian is forbidden. We must build a free Syria, the new Syria, hand by hand.
We are against blood. We do not want revenge. Those who violated rules and killed and spilled Syrian blood should be held fairly accountable and executed in Marjah Square. But the innocent people have nothing to do with it. Families, doctors, pharmacists died on the ground and they cannot bury their bodies. This is forbidden.
In West Asia's conflict-laden past and violence-ridden present, the pattern of once powerful minority community members dying in the purported revenge killings is not new. It happened with Iraq's minority Sunni community after Saddam Hussein's fall in the early 2000s. And now Alawites are seen to be becoming the target of sectarian revenge after the fall of the Assad regime in Syria. The new government is facing the challenge to keep the country united after decades of sectarian fragmentation. Now, for more on this, we have with us Daniel Gerlach, West Asia expert and Director General of Candid Foundation. He is joining us live from Berlin, Germany. Welcome to the broadcast.
Hello, Alison. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Now, thank you. Now, with the death toll from the clashes between the Syrian government forces and Assad loyalists surpassing 1,000, what are the underlying factors that are driving the sudden escalation of violence? And how significant is this infighting for the stability of the regime?
Yeah, look, I've returned from Syria recently and I've spent some time in the coast and I've been working with the Alawite community and mediation and dialogue efforts for many years. So I think I'm well informed about what's going on there. I can tell you that there are three factors that have been exacerbating the situation. One is the release, the laying off basically of many Syrians from the state institutions, including the security apparatus, which led to discontent because many Alawites in the old regime depended on the income from the state institutions. So that fueled unrest and gave also rise to some of the very few, but unfortunately very harmful remnants of the old regime that are armed and that are willing to take revenge. Another factor is, of course, the absence of security forces, because the government of Bashar in Damascus has very limited security forces. But the third, and that we see very clearly, is in addition to the security incidents, there's a lot of underlying hatred and feeling that retribution and revenge, however violent it is somehow justified because the Alawites, in the eyes of many in Syria, were tied to the old regime and were profiteers of the old regime, which is false to a large extent. But that is also one of the reasons why I think the government is choosing its enemies and is not directly confronting those militias and vigilantes that have been going around rousing the villages, attacking people, looting homes, and killing large number of civilians. These were not necessarily all tied to the new government, but many of them are militias that are part of the security forces due to the lack of a real army and a real police craft that is soon to be built in Syria, hopefully.
Right. And Daniel, what are the potential humanitarian and geopolitical implications of this intensified conflict for Syria and for the broader region, especially concerning the refugee flows and the balance of power in West Asia?
Of course, many Syrians over the last 14 years of conflict, of war, have fled Syria. Most of them were part of the Sunni community. because they were the ones who were mainly targeted by the Assad regime and deemed illoyal to the regime. Now, when the tide is turned, of course, the Alawite community is the one that feels now that it's not protected, that people are being targeted because of their religious and sectarian identity. And of course, this gives rise to the idea that Alawites, but also other minorities, want to leave the country. I'm not saying that the political power is there to displace them or wants them to leave, but of course this is something that many also European politicians did not have on their agenda. If you look at the debate, at the discourse here in Europe, it's much about Syrians returning to Syria after the downfall of the Assad regime. But now we have a situation where many people legitimately would say, I'm persecuted based on my sectarian or religious identity. That is a big problem. Geopolitically, I also think that there is a rise to those who are, let's say, remnants of the old regime that are allied with Russia, but also with other players in the region, Iran, for example, and that say, okay, if Russia was the only power that protected the Alawites, at least that was the narrative that the Russians were promoting, then we need some other international power to step in. The Europeans are not wanting to do that because they don't want to start the game of foreign intervention in Syria anew, and that is a big problem. On the other hand, somebody needs to protect the Alawite community in humanitarian terms because such massacres might continue.
Thank you very much for being with us on First Post. We value your insights and analysis there.
Thank you.
Shifting focus now to North Korea, the country's leader, Kim Jong-un, has unveiled the first nuclear-armed submarine. Although it is still under development, North Korea's nuclear-armed submarine has already raised questions about the possible threats it could pose to its neighbor South Korea and rival the United States. Kim Jong-un visited the shipyards where the nuclear-powered submarine is being constructed and was seen touring the facility and examining the vessel. It is being called a nuclear-powered strategic guided missile submarine. Some experts say it can carry about 10 missiles. It is also being reported that the submarine has the capability of carrying nuclear-capable weapons. If true, this could significantly change how Pyongyang operates at sea. Modernizing the country's arsenal has been long on Kim Jong-un's list to do, which he has been ticking off with bold steps. The development of such an advanced weapon system also raises questions of foreign assistance. Analysts say that Russia is likely helping North Korea to bring this warship to life. Other advanced weapons that North Korea has been testing include solid-fueled intercontinental ballistic missiles, hypersonic projectiles, spy satellites, and multi-warhead missiles. Now, this relentless pursuit of mastering the technique of building these arms reflects how the country is expanding its military reach. Building a nuclear-powered submarine has been among Kim Jong-un's top priorities since 2021. Such vessels can typically stay underwater for extended periods. It can launch missiles from unpredictable locations and can be a game changer for any country that possesses it. The timing of this new quote-unquote nuclear-powered submarine is also important. It came just ahead of the joint military exercises by the US and South Korea. The Freedom Shield drills that began today are an annual exercise that includes simulated wartime scenarios. On the very same day, North Korea fired multiple ballistic missiles. The launch appeared to be a direct response to the war games. Now, Pyongyang has repeatedly condemned these military exercises, saying it views them as a threat to the region. While it's unclear how advanced North Korea's latest nuclear-powered submarine is, its mere introduction seemed to have raised some eyebrows. If fully developed, this could alter military dynamics in the region. And shifting focus to Nepal, where 16 years after the landlocked South Asian nation's parliament abolished monarchy, the support for a potential rule of king witnessed an assertive resurgence. Now, in the latest, an estimated 10,000 supporters greeted Nepal's former king, Gyanendra, in the capital of Kathmandu yesterday. Now, they demanded his abolished monarchy must be reinstated and Hinduism be brought back as a state religion. Now, the former king's supporters blocked the main entrance to Kathmandu's international airport and chanted slogans while calling for his return to power. Now, hundreds of riot police blocked the protesters from entering the airport to prevent violence.
I am here to seek the change in the political system, reinstate the king in power and return Hinduism as state religion.
We are here to give the king our full support and to rally behind him all the way to reinstating him in the royal throne.
The former king Gyanendra was crowned monarch in 2002 after his brother and family were killed in 2001 royal massacre. He ruled as the constitutional head of state until 2005. In 2005, he seized absolute power, and with that, he disbanded the parliament, jailed politicians and journalists, declared a state of emergency. In 2006, massive street protests forced Gyanendra to give up his authoritarian rule. 2 years later, in 2008, the parliament voted to abolish the monarchy, as Gyanendra was forced to leave the royal palace to live a life of a commoner. Now, King Gyanendra's fall was widely seen as a fresh beginning of democratic revivalism in Nepal, where poverty, corruption and underdevelopment remain key challenges. But over the years, the Nepalese people have shown frustration with the lack of political stability in the country. With polarized political divisions between the communists and conservatives, the country has had 13 governments since the monarchy was abolished in 2008. Many blame the state of political instability for revived support for the monarchy in Nepal. So far, Gyanendra himself has not commented on calls for return to monarchy. As Nepal grapples with political fragmentation and public discontent, its nascent democracy continues to steer through uncertain waters. The memories of King Gyanendra's authoritarian rule when civil liberties were suspended remain fresh, but despite that, the support for monarchy is growing. And for many, this remains an alarming sign for Nepal's hard-won democratic future. A young republic now faces a crucial test between moving forward or looking back. For our final story tonight, we want to begin by asking some questions. Now, who do you think is the kind of person to go on a hunger strike? A passionate activist? A rebel with a cause? Maybe someone who is really upset about the food served at the cafeteria. Now imagine a man nicknamed Hannibal the Cannibal deciding to refuse meals. You'd say irony just packed its bags and left the chat. But that's exactly what has happened. A British serial killer named Robert Maudsley is now skipping lunch. He is the longest-serving solitary prisoner in the United Kingdom. Locked in a glass-walled cell at Wakefield Prison in West Yorkshire, Maudsley is protesting the loss of his only source of entertainment. As per his brother, he is not eating because prison guards confiscated his PlayStation, TV and music system. The 71-year-old got the nickname Hannibal after false reports claim that he's eaten a part of a prisoner's brain. It doesn't help, of course, that his prison conditions mirror Hannibal Lecter's setup from the film Silence of the Lambs with Anthony Hopkins. Now, his glass cell is reportedly 18 feet by 15 feet, custom built to keep him away from others. Maudsley was first jailed in 1974 when he was just 21 years old. While in custody, he killed 3 more inmates, forcing authorities to acknowledge he was too dangerous for regular prison. For 46 years now, Robert Maudsley has been in solitary confinement. That's a world record that even the worst criminals haven't set. But this is not the first time that Maudsley has reacted so strongly to something trivial. According to his brother, something similar happened a decade ago. Robert was stripped of his possessions, and with nothing to occupy his mind, he started to spiral into madness. The fear is now that history might repeat itself, except this time, instead of losing his mind, he's just losing his appetite. Apart from his gadgets, Maudsley is also upset about losing his non-fiction books. His brother says the main prison was temporarily locked down after rumors spread that someone had smuggled in a gun, and this led to a big search operation. Maudsley's section was affected because of this, and when he was finally allowed back into his cell, he found that all of his belongings were missing. And that is what led Hannibal the cannibal to declare a hunger strike. As news of the hunger strike spread, social media had a feast of its own. Many roasted him over his decision. Some found it ironic, while others joked that fellow inmates were probably happy because of it. Whether he deserves sympathy or not is something we will leave to netizens to decide online. But taking away his last distractions seemed punishment on top of punishment. And that's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to First Post.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on First Post.